what frightens me is Jewish citizens who have seen an escalation of hate and violence. When I go to the Hasidic communities in Sullivan County, in Greene County, these are individuals that have been living peacefully, all of a sudden have their children and their lives being upended and threats and violence brought against them. At the end of the day, we need to confront anti-Semitism as the cancer it is. And that means, yes, standing with Israel and Israel's right not only to defend itself, but to bring Hamas to its knees, to ultimately bring the hostages home. And we as a nation must make very clear that if you harbor individuals and support individuals who act out in violent and intolerant ways against Jewish Americans, that's not something to be accepted.
Can we just note the hypocrisy of someone who just announced his support for a Muslim ban and opposed the White House's task force on Islamophobia, lecturing us about bigotry?
Josh, with all due respect, please, I said, and you know, the argument in Trump v. Hawaii was meant to protect America from terrorists, and because of the policy that this administration has put in place, and you argued for mass amnesty, catch and release, prosecutorial discretion, and sanctuary city policies, we now have 1,000 known terrorists that have entered into this country. We have 10.5 million people who have entered into this country with 600,000 known criminals. At the end of the day, this administration abandoned the southern border and the northern border using your legal argument.
There he goes again. 30-year career politician, blame everybody else.
We have a lot to talk about, and I know there are topics that both of you want to talk about, so let's move on.
For Mr. Riley.
Yeah, thanks.
Federal data has shown a provisional decrease in opioid overdose deaths across upstate New York for the first time in years, leading to some optimism that current public health policies may be effective at combating one of the state's worst public health crises. Do you believe New York politicians have effectively dealt with the opioid crisis, or do you believe there is more to be done? If elected, what policies would you support to deal both with fentanyl trafficking and with opioid overdoses?
There's a huge amount that still needs to be done. I grew up in Endicott, factory town. Just about everybody worked in the plant or was somehow connected to it. Mike Morley's folks had the flower shop down on Washington Ave. Everybody was connected to the plant in some way. And when the politicians and the special interests closed those plants down and shipped those jobs overseas, we saw real challenges across our community, and the opioid epidemic ripping through was one of them. One of my really good friends down on the corner on Berthold Street was killed because of it. I was actually just with his mom a couple of days ago. Our buddy Mike was a couple blocks back, was killed because of it. One of my best friend's mom was killed because of it. I've seen the damage this has caused. Two things I want to do about it. Number one, secure the damn border. Send the technology, get it off the shelves, go do your job, pay for the technology to go to the border to detect the fentanyl. Pay for it, get it done, stop the fentanyl from coming in. And second, we need a surge in treatment. We do not have enough beds across this district to deal with this challenge. In Broome County, back in 2017, I advocated in a bipartisan way for a treatment facility to go there. It was very effective for the folks it could serve, but the demand far outstrips the supply.
Mr. Molinaro?
I have witnessed far too many people who struggle with substance use disorder and have lost their lives to fentanyl and synthetic opioids. Lindsay in Sullivan County, who leads efforts to assist those who live with substance use disorder, lost her own child. She knows what we know, which is that far too much fentanyl and synthetic opioids are pouring in across our border. Secure the border. It's why I voted for Secure the American Border Act, to not only support law enforcement at the border, but to intercede in drug trafficking. What we must do is secure the border, enforce the law. In states like New York with cashless bail, we let those who prey on young people, on American citizens, get away with continuing to take lives with no repercussions. I have supported additional resources for local law enforcement to engage in drug trafficking, interceding in drug trafficking. It's why those law enforcement agencies that have endorsed in this race support my candidacy, because they know that we stood shoulder to shoulder with them. And as a local elected official, I led the creation of the community-based mental health and substance use treatment program, which is now the model that the state of New York uses. We must have access to treatment for those who deal with substance use disorder. We need to meet people where they are and help them to get to a life of greater independence, not reliant on substance use, and ultimately get the treatment they deserve. And it's why I'm working with Jason Garner, Democrat County Executive in Broome County, to bring about that kind of treatment. It's why we're working in Sullivan County to do the same. I think every community in America should have access, and every person should have access to treatment.
Mr. Molinaro, thank you very much. Chantel?
For Congressman Molinaro, in 2016, you said that you refused to vote for Donald Trump and wrote in former Representative Chris Gibson instead. Yet 8 years later, after Trump has been convicted of dozens of felonies and has been impeached twice, plus lost the last election, you've endorsed him. Why the different approach this year?
I've watched these last 4 years of inflation pouring down and burdening upstate New Yorkers. I've seen the cost and the burden on small businesses and families and farmers in upstate New York. I've watched as this administration abandoned the southern border, allowed 10.5 million people enter into this country. And I've seen, quite frankly, far too much devastation, the loss of lives because of substance use disorder and fentanyl and synthetic opioids pouring into this country. And I believe that this administration abandoned its responsibility. I have a hard time embracing somebody who runs for office and says, pay no attention to all the crises we created over these last 3 years. Hire me. I'm going to fix them. I just believe that ultimately we need a government that respects the people of upstate New York, that focuses on driving down cost, secures the border, protects Americans, and creates opportunity for everyone, regardless of their background.
Mr. Riley?
You're asking me, that was a very different question. Oh, a response to why he's supporting Donald Trump? Well, I don't know that I can necessarily speak to that, except, if I were to guess what the actual answer to that question is, it's politics. Back in 2017, he was running for governor of New York, a very blue state, and it probably wasn't good for his politics to support President Trump at that time. Now he's running for a different office in a different place where he put his finger in the air, saw which way the wind was blowing, and decided to change his position. By the way, it's exactly what he's done with respect to abortion and women's health care decisions. For 30 years, he's been a politician, and every single step of the way, he's been anti-choice. Now he realizes it's election season, and that's not a popular position to have, and now all of a sudden he's saying that he thinks things differently. You can find out for yourself. This actually isn't a matter of debate as to opinion. These are facts, and they're knowable. You can go to molinarofacts.com, and you can see for yourself all 13 of the votes that he took to restrict women's access to abortion services.
You're lying again, and I do think it is the height of hypocrisy to have Josh Riley lecture us on women's issues. It was your law firm that represented rapist Harvey Weinstein, and it was the information team that you led that silenced, bullied, and intimidated Harvey Weinstein's victims. And you consistently have lied about my position, and I absolutely make this commitment. I believe and have always believed that the decision the decision should be left to a woman and a physician, not Washington. I oppose a national abortion ban, and I will continue to work to expand access to the treatment, support, and care necessary, no matter the choice a woman makes.
You know what would be great? Because he can actually put some action to his words. Will you commit tonight to co-sponsor the Women's Health Protection Act and put Roe v. Wade back into law?
I will do nothing that diminishes access here in the state of New York, which that legislation could result in.
Nope, it would just put Roe v. Wade back into law. It's sitting on your desk. You could go do it. If you believed anything that was coming out of your mouth, you could sign on to the bill.
Conversation after we've stopped, but we have to move on. Ian has the next question.
For Congressman Molinaro now, Republican candidate and former President Trump has still not conceded the 2020 defeat. If he loses the race to Vice President Harris next month and again disputes the result without evidence, will you vote to certify Harris's victory?
I will certify the results sent to us from the states. That's my commitment. And Josh, I want to return to this because we have heard this consistently. With all due respect, Josh, there's only one person on the stage who's made millions of dollars working in Washington, D.C., and it sure the heck isn't me. You have consistently argued and made this, you can see the TV ads, corrupt politician. It's a canny line that people like you use to somehow suggest you haven't been working the halls of Washington. You are the problem in Washington, D.C. You trade relationships and power and think you can come back to New York and buy yourself a congressional seat. I mean, with all due respect, I gave myself to public service because I actually believe it. I've been with families that have lost loved ones to fentanyl and synthetic opioids. I've sat with families who have seen their homes destroyed because of fire and flood and responded. You have a TV ad out that says, I have done nothing in 30 years. With all due respect, 20 years in local government led on reducing the cost of living for the people we serve, led on mental health and substance use disorder, and we have made a lifetime commitment to ensuring those who live with mental health and intellectual, physical, and developmental disabilities have a government that respects them. You can consistently and continually argue that somehow you're free of the corruption. millions of dollars poured into your campaign from corporate interests, millions of dollars backing your campaign from corporations, and 12,000 shadowy contributions from around the country with no information. You're the one who took $30,000 from George Soros, not-for-profit, to do what? I don't know, but nevertheless, you took those resources.
Mr. Riley.
This actually isn't that complicated. I don't take corporate PAC money. I never have. I don't.
You
I don't.
do. It is
This
filtered.
is my time. You had your
I
time.
understand.
You had your time.
You've interrupted me just about every time. You have accepted corporate dollars.
Can you guys moderate this debate? He had his time. I don't take corporate PAC money. Period. Never have. Never will. It is the root of corruption in our politics. He has taken nearly $1 million in corporate PAC checks, and you can draw a direct line from the checks that he's stuffing in his pockets to the votes that he's taken to jack up the grocery prices, jack up the utility prices.
No such
To the
thing. And
challenges. This is still my time. This is still my time. There's a clock there. You can see the time. It's
please
still
don't
my.
lecture me.
I'm just asking for my time. Give me the courtesy to have your time, and then you can.
You've
have yours.
interrupted me every time I've had an answer, Josh.
We'll give you another 10 seconds after this.
He said that he said that my position, or that I had said he hadn't done anything.
That's your
in his
position.
Can you please? I know this is hard. I just need you to give me an opportunity to speak. He said that my position is that he hasn't done anything during his political career. That's not my position. He voted to give $114 billion in tax cuts to billionaires and big corporations. He voted to cut heating assistance for seniors. He voted for an over 20% cut to Head Start programs that are desperately, desperately needed. And you just can't escape your voting record. You voted 13 times to restrict access to abortion services. And this is what's going to happen. He's going to say that's not true. And you're going to go to MolinaroFacts.com and you're going to see for yourself.
The website your campaign created.
We want to be sure we have enough time for you gentlemen to keep.
My campaign didn't create the votes. Are you
We want to
denying?
make sure we have
Are you
enough
denying
time
the
for you to
votes?
provide closing statements. In the meantime, Chantel has our next question. And you'll have 30 seconds to respond.
Mr. Riley, do you plan to vote for the Equal Rights Amendment on New York's November ballot this year?
I don't know how I can be any more clear on this. Women's healthcare decisions belong to women and not politicians. Roe v. Wade being overturned was one of the worst Supreme Court cases in the history of this country. I think Citizens United, which opened the floodgates to dark money in politics, was one of the worst. There have been a number of them, but the Dobbs decision was one of the worst. The Equal Rights Amendment will undo that damage by restoring Roe v. Wade into law. My opponent, he's been in office for 30 years, and he has been anti-choice every single step of the way, including back when he was in the state government, he opposed putting Roe v. Wade back into law, and we are now seeing the damage that that is causing across the country. Not only is the Equal Rights Amendment in the state, but we should be talking about what's happening federally on this issue. I still didn't hear an answer to my question. The Women's Health Protection Act has been sitting on his desk. It would restore Roe v. Wade into law. I'll sponsor it. He hasn't.
Mr. Molinaro.
The amendment that you referred to would codify biological males playing in girls' sports. Women have fought very hard in this state and in this nation to have equal access to athletics, equal respect under the law, and this amendment goes too far. But what also troubles me is that the amendment would extend constitutional protections to illegal immigrants. And this is all a part of the Democratic plan in the state and city of New York to expand access and protection to illegal immigrants under the New York State Constitution would then lead to what New York City tried to do only months ago, which is extend voting
Mr.
rights
Molinaro, thank you very much. We have
illegal
I have
citizens.
to
Let me
cut
finish
you
the
off because we have closing statements and neither of you will get an opportunity. Mr. Riley, first with your closing statements. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you. Well, thank you all again for hosting. Look, I'm a Democrat. I come from a Republican family, and I know that today our politics seem hopelessly divided. I've had an opportunity, though, to travel all across this district and talk to folks from all walks of life and all different political backgrounds, and you've given me hope. I know that we are not nearly as divided as a people as the political establishment and the special interests would have us believe. We're hardworking, decent people who have each other's backs. Those are upstate New York values that unite us, and those are the values I'm going to take with me to Congress.
Mr. Riley, thank you. Mr. Molinaro.
I truly appreciate the honor of one, being here, and two, representing you in the House of Representatives. I will say this without question. This was a spirited debate, and I have crisscrossed this district for the last 2 years, meeting tens of thousands of people that I serve. I serve you. I know that. I know that we are supposed to respond and be responsible to you. It's the reason, by the way, our office reaches out to citizens and residents regardless of political background. When you call us and ask for us to help, we don't ask your political affiliation, we don't ask who you voted for, we just ask how we can help, and we want to help. I am the second most bipartisan member of Congress because I will work with Republicans and Democrats to get the job done and serve the people of upstate New York. I am asking for your support to continue to do the work on your behalf.
Thank you, gentlemen. I should point out that our consortium invited other area candidates for Congress to debate this season, and the two of you are the only ones who agreed, and for that, you should both be applauded. Thank you also to our panel of journalists here tonight. It is exactly 26 days till Election Day. Please get out there and exercise your right to vote. On behalf of our consortium and all of us here at News Channel 13, we wish you a good night.